What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to another episode of the Dossier, the Marvel Crisis Protocol show where we talk all things Marvel Crisis Protocol characters, what we think about the character miniatures models, how they were to build, paint, how and what we think about their cards and what they kind of do and perform on the table. As usual, these discussions are not meant to be the definitive answer to any of your questions on the characters. They are meant to be a snapshot and an idea of what to expect from the character and give you an idea if you want to dive further into it. There is lots of great conversation out there that you can definitely go and engage yourself in and find out a lot more about these great characters. And of course, if you want to keep seeing more content like this, it is only possible with the support of all the wonderful people on Patreon. You can be a patron yourself, $1 a month, $12 a year. And it helps everything happen here. It allows me to keep up with this and allows me to keep making more content, which I just absolutely love. So today, we are talking about James Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, the original Winter Soldier. And he has gone through quite a few iterations that we're going to sort of talk about a little bit here. But first, let us talk the character himself. And unfortunately, I find him a very boring model. I don't think there's really a lot going on with him. I think his pose is very, very dull. It's just sort of like that, not so much static, but it's a very dull, I'm just going to walk forward and shoot stuff. There's not any dynamic aspect to it. It was super easy to paint with only a couple weird bits on there, like the what is it? The knife up here, the pouches. Whoops. And I think over here, like the holster right there, were sort of like the most awkward pieces to kind of put on, but that's just because I got big sausage fingers here. Otherwise, I mean, there's not really much to say about his model. I think it's a rather dull model, especially in comparison to the one he just got in Earth's Mightiest Core set. One little change that I think I would have liked on here is maybe give him the instead of just the domino mask, maybe have the respirator as well. But honestly, I don't know. Unfortunately, it's a very dull model in my opinion. So what about the card itself? Well, he just recently got redone for Ministravanganza. So let's take a look at this. He's got 3/3/2 for his defenses. He's got 5 stamina, 6 on his injured side. He has 3 threat, size 2, medium movement. Nothing really to say about his defenses here. They're pretty standard. I mean, a Mystic defense makes a lot of sense. He's kind of always been brainwashed here. So I'm cool with this. I don't think it really matters. So we get into his attacks, and we start off with Assault Rifle. And this is a range 5, 4 dice attack. It is a builder attack, and anyone who's watched the show or listened to me on any of these circuits knows I do not like 4 dice builders at all. I think they're very restrictive. It has a wild bleed, and it has a wild rapid fire. Now, a big change here is that rapid fire used to be on a hit result, not a wild result. So it went from being something like a 70% chance down to like a 45% chance. I personally think that really hit his power generation really hard. Before, he was problematic because he was just able to throw so much dice all the time, especially if you were able to give him a hammer or any way to get more dice in there. It made him very consistent. Like if you just throw enough dice, especially where the attacker's dice are already weighted against the defender's dice, you will be gaining power. You'll be able to really take advantage of that. I think with the new rapid fire not even hitting half the time, it kind of feels like this being a builder attack really limits his power. I think personally I would have preferred if they made it into a gainer attack, so he just gains 1 power every time he makes his attack. It caps him at 4 for each round if he wants to do it twice, but it means he doesn't get those big spikes, but it still means that you can get some power to rely on to do the rest of his kit. Next up, we got Red Fury, range 2, 7 dice for 4 power. And after the attack is resolved, if the character is size 3 or less, that target character is pushed away short, and then Bucky makes an assault rifle attack. This also saw a rather significant change in that the size used to be unrestricted. He used to be able to push Hulk or Sentinels or all that sort of stuff, and it was kind of wild. It's still a great attack. I mean, 7 dice into 4 dice, potentially even 8 dice with the assault rifle, is still really good if you get him into position. I think with his new change to assault rifle, though, it's going to be a little bit harder to power him up to this one, especially with the rest of his kit. The other really important thing to note here is that if that push cannot happen, so you're hitting a size 4 or 5, or someone who's indomitable or anything like that just can't be pushed, the assault rifle also does not happen either. I'm not a big fan of that particular way that they've handled how that series of events goes, but it is what it is, and it's important to note. Next up, we got Hydra Tactics for 2 power. It's an active ability. Choose another allied character within 2 of this character. Place this character within 1 of the chosen character. This was something that made Bucky so dangerous. With Hydra Tactics, it was very easy to power him up, get him into a great position to, either ignore cover on his assault rifle or get into a great Red Fury position. And you could do it multiple times. You could literally move across the board if you had enough power to do so, and it was an absolutely wild ability. It's still really good, and with his power generation now, it's one of the more attainable powers. You're not going to be able to get it off multiple times all the time, but when you do get it off, it's going to be really impactful, or at least it should. Next up, we got Your Back for 3 power. It's a reactive. When an allied character is dazed or KO'd, this character spends 3 and immediately makes an assault rifle attack against the character that KO'd or dazed. It's a great ability. I mean, this was the bread and butter of the Shield gun line quite a bit. Him and Fury Senior being able to just do back-to-back Got Your Backs, and it was really rough. Like, getting that many attacks out of sequence, especially with the assault rifle triggering on the rapid fire for with a hit. This Got Your Back could easily do a whole bunch of damage. I've personally had situations where Got Your Back has ended an activation mid-activation because Bucky just popped off with a hammer or two and just wrecks face, and somebody just did not get a good defensive roll. This is a great ability, a lot harder to get with the changes in the power generation, though. Next up, we got Rogue Agent. Basically, when you are building your squad, he will count as an affiliated character for the purposes of being affiliated, but keep in mind he does not gain that affiliation, so he can't use those affiliated cards or anything that specifically calls out the affiliation keyword. So keep that in mind. Then we got Spetsnaz Training. It is basically, it's a reroll of 1 die for the attack or defense when within range 1. This paired really well with Red Fury. It was a great way of trying to just get that extra little bit of damage in with it. So where does Bucky stand these days? Well, I mean, he's lost a lot of luster from where he was. He was arguably one of, if not the best 3 threat in the game for a long time, and that's because he was just way too overtuned. It was way too easy to generate power with his attack. When you're rolling that many dice in a single activation, you could easily pop off and just cause a lot of damage. You were able to get to those spikes a lot easier as a result. He was just so easy to slot in, and at range 5, I mean, he was very safe. You could keep him back, and he could just hold a back point and reach out and touch everything in there. Then, I mean, he just had so much ability to get around with Hydra Tactics. Red Fury was a great way of just plinking off a larger target. And Got Your Back, just it punished the other person for doing what they wanted to do, and that is, knock other guys out. So, I mean, he saw a lot of play in Shield. He was a great character in Shield. I think he's still proficient in Shield. I think he's okay. I think if this card were to have come out today without us knowing the previous versions of Bucky, I think he'd be fine. We'd look at him go, yeah, all right. It's hard to really enjoy Bucky now considering the changes he's got, though. I do think he still needs to get that gainer on his thing. I think all the other changes made it a little bit too difficult for him to get to use a lot of his kit. And I think having that guaranteed power on each assault rifle would just go a long way to it. And it would still keep him reined in without being able to just almost always generate the power that he needs to generate. So I still think he has a home in Shield. I think anywhere else where you want to create a sort of pseudo gun line, or you need to have that rogue agent, he still fits in rather nicely. And if you can find a home for him, I mean, give him rerolls to try and get that rapid fire off. It just makes him feel a little bit better. So Wakanda, or even in Mighty Steve's Avengers affiliation. Those are places where it becomes a little bit easier to get those triggers off, and it does kind of make him bring him back to where he kind of was as a result, at least a little bit there. That's kind of where I see about Bucky these days. Definitely leave your comments below. This is a really big one. I want to hear what other people think about the new Bucky and whether or not they went too far, not far enough, all that sort of stuff. Get involved in that discussion. And remember, if you want to see more of these, hit up patreon.com/AegisBrandStudios. Until next time, happy wargaming.